Mic check 212, bitch.
All right. What is up, guys? What is up? This is DDP from the Dallas Prospect. I'm a little bit sick still, but I'm fighting through to do this. I apologize for the late delay on the show, at least in terms of the start time. I'm going to try and give at least a half hour if I can before my voice completely craps out on me again. In the meantime, let's just roll with this, though. I see I got a mess up on my green screen in the corner. Don't worry about it. Disregard it. I probably can't fix that easily on this anyway. Shout out first in the house to Gle. What up? As well to Diego. What's good, man? Hey, what's up? Gle, Cowboys got smacked. Offense sucks. Dem Boys 27, DDP. Ooh, that's tough. Defense didn't play good on Sunday. Yeah, defense did not play good. So obviously, forgot to change the little thumbnail on the window by me up there. Let me update that too. Correct. So the Cowboys lose this game in Indianapolis, 23-0. The first shutout of the Cowboys in 15 years. The worst shutout defeat of the Cowboys since the year 2000. And there's not a whole lot of good to really focus on in this game. I picked the Cowboys to win the game, but I had a nagging suspicion that, and I mentioned it in the show Thursday, when all things are otherwise relatively equal, the team that's more desperate tends to be the one that wins. And the Colts, at 7-6 going into the game, they're still playing for their playoff lives right now. Whereas the Cowboys, because of their 3-game lead that they achieved in the division over Philadelphia when they beat them the week before, it was the first week that they could breathe a sigh of relief effectively. And human nature dictates that after 5 grueling weeks in a row of, hey man, we're playing for our season. If we lose here this week, we're screwed. We pretty much, the worst we can do probably is 10-6. Now, that's the mentality at the time. Now you can probably get away. Theoretically, you could still get away with 8-8, but realistically, you're going to need at least 9 wins, if not 10, to seal this division. But that was the mentality, and when you suddenly had a moment where it's like, okay, we just got through the hardest 5-game stretch of our season. We went 5-0 when no one said we could do it. I think people were suggesting probably 2-3. Maybe 3-2 if they were optimistic was the stretch they would go on there. And it was the clear opposite of what happened. Dallas goes 5-0, and a letdown was coming. And we saw that. Dallas defense did not play well. A whole lot of missed tackles. I want to say it was like double digit, like 10 or 11 missed tackles. If you look at Dallas's now 6 losses, 5 of those 6 losses had more than 5 missed tackles in the game. So there's a trend there as well that you can point to as a concerning potential trend. As good as this defense is, it is due every now and then for getting a little, I guess, sloppy with its fundamentals on wrapping up and tackling. Let me see here. Dem Boys. What's wrong with Zeke? He looks hurt. He hobbles and shakes his head funny. O-line is beat up. We need to fix that next season. The O-line is a big problem for Dallas. Dak still ate some sacks in this game that he had no need to eat. He just didn't get rid of the ball in time. But let's get into Zeke a little bit. So Zeke coming into this game, I believe, was it was going into the Philly game. And he was 1 touch shy of his 2016 total already, because you have to factor in rushing attempts and receptions. And Zeke has like 70-plus catches on the season now, which is exactly how I said I wanted them to use him. I said if they can incorporate him into their passing game a little bit more, like a Le'Veon Bell, I know he hasn't played this year, or a Todd Gurley. And that doesn't necessarily mean lining him up outside, but just setting them up and getting them involved in the offense, not just a last resort, you'll benefit from it. But the counter to that, what up, Cowboy X Factor? The counter to that is you now run the risk of wearing Zeke down earlier, because he's getting about 40 touches a game on average now, and you can see he is clearly exhausted. He's a little bit banged up. I don't think he has an official listed injury on the injury report, but he's absolutely beat up, which is why I was saying if Dallas could have gotten past this game Sunday, I said at that point you clinch the division and you have to take a serious look at whether or not you want to rest some of your key players those final 2 weeks. But here's the thing, Dallas, because of the letdown, they didn't get the job done. They now are 8-6. Philly beat the Rams, which I was surprised by. Philadelphia might really need to take a look at if Nick Foles is still their better option, because I did not have Philly winning that game, especially after Carson Wentz was effectively put on IR. He's not, but he didn't play that game. He's got a fracture in his back. I don't see any reason why they play him again this year, because if they're going to make any kind of late charge, it's going to be because of Nick Foles, last year's Super Bowl MVP, for whatever that's worth. Meanwhile, Washington also beats the Jags. The Jags continue their free fall, and as a result, nothing was clinched. No one's been eliminated. So we basically got a 3-team race with 2 weeks left. You win one game, you're in. The Bears also won, so the hopes of getting the 3 seed are pretty much gone, I think, at this point. Not mathematically, but realistically. And as a result, I say if I'm Dallas, with Tampa Bay on the schedule next, my mentality is go in, go all out for that win. Get that win, and then rest my team all of the last week of the regular season, because you're playing wild card weekend anyway. The difference in 2016 when they came out flat was they rested their guys the last week of the season anyway, but then they had a bye week in the playoffs because they were the number 1 seed. You won't have that this year, so rest your guys the 1 week, give them at least a little something, and take care of it then. Hell, if you're able to come out and put your foot on Tampa Bay's throat immediately, you might be able to rest your guys, an extra quarter and a half. But Tampa Bay puts up yards in absurd bunches. The problem is they are wretched at turning the ball over and at scoring touchdowns. So, something to keep in mind there. Let me see, Cowboys X Factor. This is why the Cowboys needed to win this game and give Zeke less carries. I agree. They needed the win, but it's like they needed the win in getting Zeke rest, but they didn't need the win in terms of their postseason lives. And I had a really charged discussion with someone earlier today, and I'll get into that in a sec. Hold on. Philly, I think, might not beat the Texans. Yeah, they got the Texans next week, and the Redskins lose to the Titans is what you're projecting. Could happen, both of which could happen. Like I said, Dallas doesn't technically yet need to win another game this year. But if you take care of your business, it doesn't matter what the other guys do. Cowboys just need to take care of business and beat the Bucks. Don't rely on other teams to get the job done. I agree with the mentality. If we clinch on Sunday, we should definitely lighten the workload for Zeke. Yes. So here's the discussion I got into with someone earlier today. And I get where he's coming from, but I think he's looking at it in too black and white of a way. He's basically saying he's frustrated with Cowboy fans who are saying, hey, we needed this loss, because he's saying, if you're a professional team, you never need losses. Losses are bad. You need wins, because you could have clinched the division with that win. And that's a true statement, but here's why I disagree with the sentiment. And this is what I told him, and he kind of laughed back at me, and I expounded on my argument even more, and then he didn't really bother trying to counter it, because I don't know how you counter it. But what I basically said was, if you look at this and you say, okay, yes, you're right, no one needs a loss, but at the same time, it does change the perception. If you're the Cowboys, yes, you've been on a 5-game winning streak, and that's awesome. It really is. But the problem with such a thing like that is, as we saw in the Philadelphia game and even the Saints game before that, we were winning sloppy. We were getting away with things we shouldn't be getting away with. That New Orleans game, we lost the turnover battle. We were penalized costly with several boneheaded plays. Zeke was held under 100 yards, scored 0 points in the second half, 13 in the game. I mean, there were so many things that they won the game, And yet you look at it on paper and you're like, wow, they won that game. And then against Philadelphia, the same thing happens. They go, they win a game in which they lost the turnover battle, in which they gave up, 14 fourth quarter points or something like that. And I mean, it's just, you looked at it across the board. 3 turnovers for Dak. 2 of them very, very costly. Really, all 3 costly in some degree. The first one you got out of without suffering any points. But it just changed the complexion of that game. And we were escaping with these wins. And what I pointed out was a loss here humbles you. Because now it's like, hey, when you're playing dangerously, but you're getting away with it, it doesn't really correct the behavior, right? Like if I'm doing something risky or something I shouldn't be doing, let's say to save time in the morning, I'm trying to like brush my teeth and trim my beard at the same time. I'm like, I haven't messed up my beard yet. Everything's fine. And then I do it the next day or whatever, like a couple days later, and then the next week I do it again. Eventually, you mess up and you gash the beard and you're like, oh shit, you're pissed off about it. Like you mess up because you can't keep playing with fire in that case without getting burned. In the Cowboys case, your mentality of, hey, we can turn it on late when we need it. Eventually that well runs dry and you're not able to. So the difference is you got past the 5 games you had to have. But by losing this game, which was we would like to have, it would benefit us to have it, you don't suffer much of a setback. You're still in control of the division. Everything is the same as it was last week. You are still in the driver's seat, and you've still got padding. I want them to take care of the Bucs so they can take the final week off, but they're still in control. And so my argument is, if we had beaten, let's say we had beaten the Colts, right? Okay, we beat the Colts, but we play silly. I saw someone in the comments mention the blocked field goal at the start of the game. We get away with mistakes and plays like that, but we're like, hey, it's cool, it's fine. We still won at the end of the day. That's what matters. Well, we were continuing to make these mistakes 3, 4, 5 games in a row. And eventually, it's going to burn you. The question is it going to burn you now and make you really say, okay, back up, focus on the little details, and correct them? Attitude readjustment, if you will. Is that going to happen, or is it going to be a situation where you go into the playoffs and then it burns you, right? Because if you had these 5, at this point, 6 straight games of winning, but mixing in some really sloppy play at the end, clinch the division, and then because the Bears still won anyway, then you take off a couple weeks, then you're out of sorts. It's different. Then you go into the playoffs and you're probably not sharp. That's how I look at it, and that's how I presented it in the argument. By getting the attitude adjustment now, you're humbled, you're refocused, and now you're like, okay, you know what? Screw it. We lost some of that padding. It's good that we had the padding, but we lost it. Let's refocus now. And now we only got 1 week to rest. We need to make sure we at least get that. I think this is exactly the mindset recalibration that this team needed. And so I disagreed with the guy on that. And his response was still to kind of say, got it. So you needed, professional athletes needed humbling more than they needed to win the division. And just kind of like laughing about it or whatever, like it's a ridiculous point. And my case is, again, it's not that they needed to be humbled. It's just the way it worked out. Like, that's just how the game developed. I would have rather won the game. They would have rather won the game. They would all tell you that. But at the same time, you got to roll with what the situation is, what the truth of it is. It's human nature. And now I think that they're going to be better and more mentally prepared and focused for this coming game with the Buccaneers. Whereas before, if they had won, I think they would have been complete cruise control between now and the playoffs. And you can't just turn it on in the playoffs, especially with this offense. Let me hit up some of the comments here. Oh yeah, there's Cowboy X Factor talking about the blocked field goal. Play of the game changed everything on the opening drive. I agree. definitely changed the tone. I would say the 4th-and-1 inside the Indianapolis 5 was where I really felt the first real. Like, the blocked field goal was big, but when they stopped us inside the 5, that's when I was like, ooh, okay. Things just got serious. What do you think of our offensive philosophy? Is it worth trying to do 10, 12, 14 plus play drives, eating the clock? It sounds great, but what's happening is the holding penalties occur. That is a true statement, John. The longer the drive, the more likely it is to eventually sabotage. There is a lot of belief around the league that it's perhaps better to have a shorter drive if you can, the more explosive drives. But Dallas's philosophy is built around grinding the clock and possessing the ball. As a result of that, I would say I don't have a problem with the mentality. I have a problem with the general play calling and scheming of the offense in general. The Cowboys now, with another like 0 for 3 day or something in the red zone, they're now like the 31st scoring offense in the league, or maybe it's 31st in like red zone scoring. There's no way you can bring Scott Linehan back. Like zero way, zero chance you can afford to bring him back. They have to bring in someone that will kind of change the offensive philosophy for them a little bit. You can still be about possessing the ball and things like that, but you can't bank on the method with which they run their plays, all those stop routes and everything that Amari Cooper, for instance, referenced after the Eagles game. Deshaun Jackson still out with the thumb injury? I think so, yes. I think you need a loss at some point because the fans are cocky heading into this game with the win streak we had. Yeah, I agree. And the players were kind of vibing that as well. Leighton Vander Esch, I love what the kid brings. Man, he is leaning in hard on this Wolf Hunter thing. Not only does he roll out his own clothing brand called Wolf Hunter with 55 shirt designs because of his jersey number, but he's like writing articles, or he's writing a contributed piece in the Players Tribune talking about there is no plan B. And I'm like, bro, like, you went from like the quiet, just take care of my business dude on the field to now you're the one out here like talking a little bit. Now you're not trash talking other teams, but like I don't want you getting too high on your own stuff right now. Just be the silent type, the silent killer like you were. If you want to do the wolf howl, do the wolf howl, but just don't be silly about it, I guess is what I'm saying. Sorry, trying to hold my voice together. So yes, I think the players needed it too a little bit. Also, 2 drives ends with field goal, no possession points later on. Comeback, yes. DDP, great life lesson here. I think I saw that come across when I was talking about shaving and brushing your teeth. I was trying to think of a scenario that would devastate me and that I could kind of pantomime a little bit, and that's what I came up with. We won 2 games in Tim Tebow-like fashion. Yeah, that's an apt comparison for the last 2 wins we had, for sure. I've been saying during the win streak, we were winning ugly despite horrible mistakes. Yes, and we weren't correcting those as we were showing on a week-to-week basis. We weren't really correcting that. And that's why I feel like a loss is good, because you learn more in a loss than you do from a win, because you have to pay a consequence for that. Cowboys X Factor exactly, but the other Cowboys YouTube people would not point that out, only focus on winning. Oh, the Tim Tebow-like fashion thing? Yeah. People don't like that comparison, and I don't love it most of the time, but there's no doubt lately that's been a little bit the recipe. Now, Dak's playing like Tim Tebow on steroids in terms of yardage and stuff. He's been generally better. I know he only had 206 yards in this game yesterday and a pick, but generally Dak's been much better since Amari Cooper. His production, if you look at now compared to 2016, we were saying the bare minimum for him was to meet his 2016, his rookie year standards. Since Amari Cooper came in, he's actually performing at a higher level than he was in his rookie season. Just like if you extrapolate the data out. So interesting note there. Mark Holmes. Holmes talking Super Bowl, even though we only beat one team with the winning record. You got two teams with a winning record because you beat the Eagles twice. Okay. You got the Eagles and the Redskins. They might not currently have a winning. Well, no, they won yesterday. I think you got better than that. And of course, New Orleans. I get what you're saying. The sentiment is that a lot of the people, including Cowboy YouTubers, are overhyping the success the team has had in this 5-game streak and projecting out and trying to say Super Bowl. I'm not about that noise yet. I'm really not. We haven't been to an NFC championship game in 20 plus years. Like, at least win a playoff game and be competitive in the divisional round with a chance to go to the NFC championship game. If you can do at least that, then I consider this a generally successful season, especially with how we started. I hate that it's probably going to save Jason Garrett's job because I'm tired of that dude. I just think that he's going to get all the credit in the world for the 5-game streak. So at this point, I'm like, okay, fine, bare minimum, get rid of Scott Linehan for me. If you can do that, then I can at least be sane looking into next season. John Davis got into it with Mark Holmes. I agree. We now have... Oh, hey, what up, Brett? Now have something to play for, especially since Philly and Washington won. I was happy that the wins, close games, not necessarily blowouts. All 5 games, one in a row, should have been double-digit victories, not down to the wire. I agree with that. We weren't blowing anyone out. That's not how we've been wired. I think we have one double-digit win this year, something like that. I mean, it's crazy how rarely we do that. And that's not just this year. That's generally the Jason Garrett era. Like, there have been a handful of occasions where that wasn't the case. Even 2016, not a lot of blowouts. Generally, you could get 2 scores, but that's not, to me, a blowout. Blowout's 3 scores or more. A W is a W, but it's close against some teams. Agreed. We shouldn't be letting something like a blocked field goal in the first few minutes determine the outcome. Driving the clock is pointless if you can't score in the end zone. Yes, V kills it for the win. Totally agree. Dallas is, I think, the second worst red zone offense in the league this year. It is abysmal how bad we are in the red zone. And part of that's Dak, part of that's play calling, part of that's just simple execution. And I get frustrated. I love Jason Witten, but I get frustrated with how many people say, and I've heard this on the Fan too. I've heard this from, who was it that was talking about it on the Fan? Oh, Ben Rogers. I get frustrated because he throws out comments sometimes where I think he's more so teasing the idea, but he doesn't really express it as such. So he had the whole story about talking about if Jason Witten was coming back, if the Cowboys were bringing him back out of the booth to join the team for a playoff push. It didn't go anywhere. He caught a ton of backlash for it. Kind of brushed it off saying that's not what he was saying. That's just how the story developed and yada, yada, yada. And just a lot of backpedaling, I felt. But even as he was explaining, I'm like, so as you're explaining that's not what you said, it kind of sounds like that's what you're saying, that's what you said. Like, you're contradicting yourself a little bit. I don't care because I never bought into the story anyway. But taking that to the next point then, last week he had the comment of addressing the red zone scoring offense, saying, hey, is the difference just having a Jason Witten out there? If you have Jason Witten, if you bring Jason Witten back, does he solve these red zone scoring issues because he's good there? And I'm like, bro, he's good in the sense that he's another guy to account for. But if you look at Jason Witten's stats, like touchdowns in recent years, they're not good. It's not like Jason Witten was a machine down inside the 5 or the 10 or something like that. It's another guy to account for, and that, yes, that can help. We've seen, in addition to Amari Cooper, even when he's not catching the ball, Amari Cooper is having an impact, a positive impact on this offense, on Zeke's running ability, on the other receivers, on the tight ends even for this team, starting to finally do a little something. Same sentiment with Witten, if you were to add a guy like that potentially, but it just drives me insane, the level of discussion we're having, because I'm like, dude, Ben Rodgers, dude, you're the same guy that tells me with a straight face that we could bring Tony Romo in right now and he could carry us to a Super Bowl. And, dude, no. Romo would die. Dak has been sacked 50 times this year. You can say a lot of those are on him, but okay, I'll give you 20 to 25% on Dak. Do you think Romo survives any of those other hits when we're an offensive line missing 3 starters? Nah. It's honestly radio clickbait effectively to throw that out there and make those statements, I feel. And I'm not trying to trash Ben Rodgers or anything like that. I generally like their show. I just feel like the discussion related to what we were talking about here, and so I wanted to like bring that up, touch on it a little bit, because I've heard other Cowboy fans make similar points, and I'm just like, you gotta accept that window is gone, dude. It's gone. Neither of those guys are here. They're not coming back. You got to work with what you have realistically, or what you might be able to add in like the off season or the draft or something like that. It always seems after they scored, they just said F it and played super aggressive. Yeah, Cowboy X Factor. Sorry about your voice, DDP. Feel better soon. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I've been fighting through a little bit of a bug the last few days. I had to actually cancel yesterday's Mavs fast break just because my voice completely failed me, and it's been touch and go today. But I'm fighting through it, trying to hang on a little longer to wrap up this show. It will be a shorter show just because it's pretty raw. Appreciate that though, buddy. We're winning by surviving till the end. It's not how a playoff team should be winning. I agree. I hope this is not 11, 12, 13, 15, and 17 all over. Well, it's not going to be 15 in the sense that was a 4-12 season. 17 was a 9-7 season. You could argue maybe it's going to be that, but the difference is we're going to make the playoffs more than likely this year, whereas 17 we were chasing until the end, and even if we had won out, even if we hadn't lost to Seattle, it wouldn't have mattered because we had lost too many crucial tiebreakers along the way. So if you're then citing 11, 12, 13, so you're citing then the 3, 8, and 8 seasons record-wise, that's on the table as well, but this isn't the 8 and 8 seasons. It's not. Those teams had no defense and no offensive line, or little offensive line, I should say. We've got all of that in spades, at least as far as the defense is concerned. The offensive line, when healthy, is still a pretty good offensive line, not a great one. And, like I said, Dak could adjust his pocket awareness, get rid of the ball, not eat those sacks, and not fumble then when he does get sacked. The offensive line would look a lot better. Cowboys have one of the worst goal-to-goal offenses, scoring less than 505 of the time. 505? Oh, 50.5% of the time? I don't follow. The way Dallas plays, the margin of error is so damn small. Any one mistake can cost us. Generally, but you got to think, man, they lost the turnover battle in the New Orleans game and the Philadelphia game. In the Philadelphia one, they lost it badly. They lost 3-1. They were the only team ever to be penalized more than 100 yards, give up 3 passing touchdowns, and lose the turnover battle by 2 or more, and still win. Only team in NFL history, 1-73. They were the 1-1-73. So you can't say that it's razor thin, because that was ugly, and they proved they could win those games. But for the offense, with regard to its execution, I agree with you. It's pretty razor thin margin. The offense, it feels like any little thing will just sabotage a drive sometimes. Now, in this game here, the 23-0 beatdown, they had drives of 10 plays, 15 plays, 14 plays, 14 plays. They had long drives. They just couldn't finish them for shit. And a lot of that is because of the red zone issues we've already talked about. A lot of key drops, too. I know everyone wants to kill Dak for this game. Look, not every pass Dak made was perfect, but there's something called a confirmation bias here, where, and again, I'm not trying to say, hey, Dak's infallible. In fact, I argued the opposite. I said you can win with Dak, but you got to have a lot of good infrastructure around him. you're close, I think, to having all of that in place. But until you have that, he's going to be largely average with a penchant for some clutch play late in the game if it's within a score or maybe two. But some of these passes that he was getting killed for, even by the commentators in game, I felt like if you put any other quarterback in that situation and ran the same play and the same exact thing happened, if it's Aaron Rodgers or someone like that, they don't criticize him. They certainly don't kill him like they did Dak. We're like, Prescott just misses that one there and just tried to just float it in there. Like, I know there's debate and discussion about it. It's not a perfect throw. It's a pass or fail grade for me on any pass attempt you see. The pass to Jarwin, that was a passing grade. Jarwin bobbles the ball as soon as it's coming into his hands. He keeps it held up there because he's trying to corral it, and the defender swats it down, I think, on 4th down, or maybe it was like 3rd and 9, and it would have been a 1st down. To me, that's more on Jarwin than it is on Dak. You can say Dak could have placed it better, but you know what? You're hitting the guy right in the hands, right in front of his face mask. You got to come up with that play, Jarwin. Let's see. Like the Eagles and Saints, one make mistake after almost 65% of the game done, and the team comes right back. Yeah, I agree with you there. Dak is a winner in clutch, but also limited. Yes, agreed. That is a pretty astute way of putting it. Astute in its simplicity there. People forget this offensive line is full of backups at guard and center, and tackles are the only starters out there. That is why Romo coming back doesn't make sense. Agreed. And, one of the words of warning I gave about Indianapolis, in addition to them running our exact defensive scheme with our former coach, Matt Eberflus, I pointed out, hey, their defensive tackles are really good, and we're having to run out a bunch of backups in our interior line. And if we lose this game, that's going to be where we're really hurt. And I do feel that was a huge thing for us. Indianapolis, I don't think, has allowed a 100-yard rusher all year. They held Zeke to 18 carries for 87 yards, 4.8 a pop, which is good, but still troubling. Now, Zeke did get another 7 catches for 41 yards, which is nice, but, it didn't go enough for Dallas there. Let's see here. Dak, 24-39, 206. Jarwin was your leading receiver, 4 for 45. Cole Beasley, 4 for 42. Zeke, 7 for 41. Cooper, 4 for 32. I mean, it's just an ugly, ugly game for Dallas. Nothing going great. Jamiz Olawale, talking about us not executing in the red zone, that second drive where we ended up, I think, getting stuffed inside on like 4th and goal. I think it was 4th and goal. Zeke got stuffed at the goal line. Again, defensive tackles getting penetration. We missed a touchdown pass to Jamiz Olawale. Dak, because of the pressure, didn't get to really put as much on it as he wanted. But Olawale he was a tight end at UNT, and he caught a 75-yard touchdown pass just last year for the Oakland Raiders. But, man, he wants that one back. That was bad. Again, it could have been better for Dak. I would personally grade that a failing grade for Dak as far as the pass, but it was still a catchable ball and a play that I felt was huge in the outcome of the game, because early on, Dallas was the one driving and really making things happen. And now, instead of being tied at 7, you never get in front of it again if you're Dallas in that case. And I felt like that really, really hurt them. The combo of Dak, Garrett, and Linehan is not working. One of them should change. Yeah, unfortunately, we're going to be stuck, I think, with Garrett. I would change Garrett and Linehan personally. I think if I'm Dak, or not if I'm Dak, but if I'm making the decision pertaining to Dak, my philosophy would be, all right, let's get a new coaching staff in here and see if Dak can either be elevated, salvaged, or if it just is affirmation that he is not the guy. Now, they seem pretty high on the thinking that he is the guy, because the talk is that in this coming offseason, they're going to extend Amari and Dak. And obviously, that means you're going to have Dak for at least 2 to 3 more years. We'll see what that works out to be. But then it's like, okay, well, then you got to get rid of the coaching staff. Crap. Well, now they're on a 5-game winning streak. Garrett's probably locked in, but the offense is still abysmal at times. if it's not Zeke or Amari or even to a lesser extent Dak bailing them out, it just doesn't work. So Linehan is at least going to be gone. That's my only silver lining I'm finding right now related to the offense. Why does Dallas keep getting the ball first? What's the point not scoring? They've been better lately about deferring. I think Indy won the toss, if I'm not mistaken, and deferred like most teams would. When you feel better, I hope you do a Mavs fast breaks. Cowboys X Factor. I'm going to, man. I am. I'm probably gonna do Mavs fast break. I'm probably gonna do that tomorrow if I'm good. I've been literally just eating cough drops like candy the last day, trying to get my voice, and so far this is about as far as it's gotten back to normal. So I'm going to. There's some serious Mavs talk to be had, and I know people are waiting on it. Dak should have done a QB sneak at the 1 yard line. The gap was wide open. Agreed, but that's not what the play call was. So Dak more often than not is going to run what the play call is. Only in certain situations will he reevaluate and change the play. DDP meant the 5:05 at the time. Oh, okay, yeah. 5:05 at the time. The Cowboys worst field goal. Gotcha. Makes sense. 50%. What do you think should be the first offensive decision the Cowboys do? As it relates to staff, I say you start by firing Scott Linehan after the season's over. I would start there. Then I would say we have to address tight end, because even though Swaim has started to show a little bit and so is Jarwin, I know you got Schultz, but I feel like I would like to have a veteran tight end, a pass catcher that can help the offense now, because I think it'll probably be year 3 for Schultz before he makes that real jump, that real leap. And in the meantime, I need production. I got caught between saying production and productivity. I need productivity in that position. That'll help the offense. That'll open things up some more. So I addressed that. But really, the offensive line needs work, man. I don't have faith in Tyron anymore. I need to start thinking about his successor. I say still move Lyle Collins back inside. Move him inside. Move Connor Williams outside. Make Connor Williams your right tackle. Make Lyle Collins your, I would say move Lyle to left guard. Right guard and center are obviously battened down perfectly with Zach and Frederick. I would say at that point, yeah, you just got to figure out what to do with Suafila in that point. No, you wouldn't. So I've already listed those two. Yeah, so make those adjustments, and I think your offensive line will improve. But you need to start thinking about Tyron's successor, and I don't think he's on the roster yet. I don't think not Cooper. I don't think that Connor is that guy. Where was Gallup? I don't know. You didn't see him. Did not see him. I know he was ill throughout the week. Looks like he didn't even play. Yeah, at least he wasn't targeted. So, yeah, he was ill during the week. I heard he was still supposed to play, but they were not practicing him during the week because they wanted to reserve his energy. But it sounds like he did not get over it. Yes, Eberflus did know exactly how to beat Scott Linehan. Agreed. But that by a similar merit, we should have known exactly how to beat their defense because it's our defense and we practice schematically against it every day. I know Tyron Smith is still very good, but he's aging and injury prone. The crazy thing is he's injuring in terms of football years, but he's still like 27, man. He came into the league so absurdly young, and he started from day one. So he's 27, but yes, physically he's breaking down, and I don't have faith in him staying healthy and continuing to give me the level of play out of him that we need. Do you think they could trade him for a first-round pick? I think a first might be tough at this point, given his injury history. His contract, even though it was like a 10-year deal, it was very favorable in terms of cost per year, and especially with how contracts have continued to inflate since then. It's very manageable for a high-quality player. The problem is not the years left, because in the NFL you can get out of a contract whenever if you're the team. The problem is I don't know how much guaranteed money he has left. I think the problem really is just his ability to stay healthy. So I don't know if you get a first for him. Maybe you could, depending on who you're talking to, or maybe you can get a second. And I don't know if I trade him. I even with my issues, I feel like you're probably going to need every minute he can give you on the field until you got his successor really groomed and ready. What's a realistic replacement for Dak besides draft if, let's say, Dak collapses from this point on? So you're talking about other than the draft, so you're suggesting basically go getting a veteran, basically a veteran backup to potentially take over if Dak craters out of nowhere. I don't know. I don't know who that would be. I don't. I'd have to look at what the quarterback market is this year, but I don't think Dallas is even looking to do that, honestly. Dallas doesn't like to give legit competition to its quarterbacks. We know they groom and they pamper these guys. Romo never had a legit backup to push him. He just eventually figured it out, and come 2013, 2014, Romo figured it out and went from being just a gunslinger to kind of a cerebral assassin. And now everyone romanticizes Romo's entire career as if he was always the 2014 guy and not the gunslinger that would break your back year after year with costly turnovers late in games. Now, to his credit, he took what probably would have been 3 straight 4-12 or 5-11 seasons and instead gave you 8-8 at least, and with a chance to make the playoffs in the final game of the season each year. But that's something that I feel like a lot of people overlook. So they're not going to give competition to Dak, unfortunately. It's going to still be Mike White or Cooper Rush if it comes internally, and I don't see that happening, honestly. At Dak very best, he's like Alex Smith type quarterback that runs. Is that even good enough? You can win with Alex Smith. I don't know if that's a perfect comparison, but you can win with those quarterbacks, absolutely. Historically, teams have won with those quarterbacks. If they have to be the main orchestrator of the offense and not more of like a bus driver or a capable hand used in limited capacity, then that's where you run into trouble. And I think last year they had to ask too much of Dak, and early on they had to ask too much of Dak. This year, once they got Cooper, it was less they had to ask of him, and as a result, you've seen his numbers bounce back more in line with what we saw his rookie year when he had the most complete team around him. We need Romo to coach QB. Kellen Moore is not working. Romo's not going to leave the booth to be a quarterback coach, guys. I know that people say that. Honestly, here's the thing. When Dak was a rookie, Romo didn't groom him very much. Like, early on he did a little bit, but once it became clear Dak was about to take his job, Romo stepped back, and it was Mark Sanchez who actually groomed Dak. Like, that's the truth of the matter. And yeah, Kellen Moore, I agree. He's not a good quarterback coach. Dak had largely regressed over about a 2-year period. That's on the coaching staff, and that's on the quarterback coach. But Romo's not going to leave the booth and his millions of dollars that he's getting from CBS to come be our quarterback coach. He's just not. I agree you need to upgrade your quarterback coach, and if Linehan's gone, his shining pupil that he's upheld so perfectly all this time and carried from Detroit to Dallas, a.k.a. Kellen Moore, I imagine he'll probably be gone too, or at least he should be. It's hard to tell which coach is at fault because they all suck. Well, it's head coach and offense in this case. Garrett has his good qualities. I don't doubt that. His teams have never quit on him. I don't think Garrett is capable of making in-game adjustments, sometimes not even adjustments week to week. I think he's slow to react sometimes, but I do think that his teams always fight for him, and when he has everything in place, he's usually pretty good at getting a fair bit out of it. Now, I feel like he's still underachieved in the postseason. 14's team should have won it all. 16, he should have been at least in the NFC Championship game, and he choked both of those away. 14, you give a little bit of a pass because there was controversy there with the Dez play. But I never look at Garrett in any game, let alone a playoff game, and say, oh, that's a advantage Dallas for the matchup. Never. So Linehan's got to go. Kellen Moore's got to go. I wish Garrett would go, but I don't see that happening at this point. Are you concerned? Okay, this is my last question because my voice is right about to go. I can feel it. So John Davis, are you concerned with overusing Elliott or wasting his career like how Witten, Ware, and Romo's career are wasted? Okay. Am I concerned about overusing Zeke? Honestly, in the context of the season where he runs out of gas and right as we're getting to the playoffs, suddenly he doesn't have a lot to offer, that I fear. And he has shown clear exhaustion in recent weeks, which is why I think it's critical to beat Tampa Bay this week so you can give him the following week off. I think that's crucial. But in the context of his career, Dallas probably extends Zeke to a new deal. I have had the controversial opinion that you don't do that. You don't extend Zeke. You have a 5th-year option on him. You use it. You get every ounce of mileage you can out of him, just as they did with DeMarco Murray. And then you let someone else pay him because the mileage they're putting on the tires is crazy. Now, I know Zeke is one of those, I don't know if generational is the right word, but he's definitely one of those extra special backs that don't come around a whole lot. And for that reason, people kill me for saying that. But I look at it like this. Would you rather pay Zeke a Todd Gurley contract where he's making, I think, 14 or 15 million a year? And, think about that. Right now he's making I want to say 6. I'd have to look at his contract again. It's been a minute since I looked at it. But making 14 or 15 million a year for Zeke. Or do you look at taking a running back in the draft? Because you can get quality anywhere in the first 4 rounds. Look at Kareem Hunt, for instance. I know he's in the news for bad reasons right now, but Kareem Hunt was taken in the 3rd or 4th round, and he had 25 career games. I think he had 31 touchdowns or something like that, something crazy. Kareem Hunt, he's not 100% of what Zeke is, but he's absolutely a dynamic back, and they got him for dirt cheap in that round. So if you have that, I look at that and say, every 4 to 5 years, I draft another one of those running backs because they're easier to find. Even if it's not 100% of what Zeke is, you can get 80 to 90% of what Zeke is. And then you take that savings and you invest it either in that tight end you need or that offensive lineman you need. Or if you have to assign some of your own guys internally, like a DeMarcus Lawrence or an Amari Cooper. I know those guys will be shored up before then. I'm just saying, you take that, or if you want to go swing on a free agent like your Earl Thomas, if you want to go get a guy like that, you have that money then to do that. That's my argument, and that's what I still believe. Now, again, I think Dallas extends Zeke, but if they extend him, then to your point and your question, yes, I greatly fear the mileage that we're putting on him, because I've screamed for 2 years I want them to include him in the passing game, and they're finally doing it. But my mentality of that was saying, hey, get every ounce you can out of him. Get every drop out of what he can offer you until his rookie deal ends, and then you move on. But if the mentality is to re-sign him, then I fear the extra mileage we're putting on him right now. But we'll see, man. Those are all down the road discussions. Zeke's not in talks for a new contract yet because, like I said, he has a 5th-year option. So Dak will actually come up before him, even though they're the same draft class. Garrett's teams never quit on him. Ever. If they didn't do it in 3 straight 8 and 8 years, if they didn't do it in 15, if they didn't do it in the first half of this season, after the Tennessee loss, they're not going to quit. So that's out. But, guys, that's going to have to wrap it for my time. My voice is completely shot. Thank you for tuning in, for checking this out. Again, I apologize. It's a little bit of a shorter show than usual. I will still do my Mavs fast break. Hopefully tomorrow. I just have to see where my voice is at. Hopefully I can get over this little bug and be back on my feet and full again. But until next time, guys, I'll say this much. I'll plug the merch store. We released our new merch store. If you want to rep the Dallas Prospects, we've got original designs there, not just our logo, but some custom designs as well. That's represent.com/store/the-Dallas-prospect. Check it out. Like us on Facebook, all that jazz. But above all, remember, every legend was once a prospect. Salute.